Good afternoon, and thank you to another one of our ISM Lunch and Learn sessions. Today we're going to be speaking with Ms. Perry Lynn Silkwood, Southwest Sales Director for Altec, and she's going to be talking to us about their DocLink Paperless Plus product. Perry Lynn, I'm going to turn everything over to you. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to showcase DocLink for you today. And what I thought we would do is kind of cover a whole bunch of different things. I want to just tell you a little bit about Altec. I want to talk about why people consider document management in their organization. And then I want to walk you through some of the products so that you can have a really clear idea on how DocLink solves various business issues. So a couple things, right? Who is Altec? So we are the publisher of DocLink and Paperless Plus. Paperless Plus builds on the Sage Paperless Office functionality. We've been in business, of course, you can see, for a very, very long time, and that means that you're doing business with a company that has deep roots, not only in accounting, but integrated with Sage as well. I think it's important to know that we are the exclusive endorsed Sage solution for document management and AP automation, and I think that that's really important to know as well. And we have many, many, many customers, so when the time is right, we of course can provide references for you. So let's first take a look at why companies consider document management and what they are trying to solve, or what are their project goals. So right now for you, I'm showcasing on the screen about 9 different things that people are trying to do. Most people come to me and they say, Perry Lynn, I simply want to go paperless. And if we ask some questions, then we can see what's really happening is that they have a lot of paper moving between various locations, which has a cost to it, right? They have a desire to speed up the invoice approval process, but we're going to build on that as we go into the demonstration as well. And they simply want to have easy access to documents and move away from filing cabinets and off-site storage and things of that nature. So take a look again here at this list. And if you are experiencing any of these items or have a desire to move towards reducing these elements, then we probably have something to talk about. But first, let me introduce you to DocLink. And what DocLink is an enterprise-wide document management system. And so at its core, it is a digital document library. And what I mean by that is you have an opportunity to store any kind of document, file, report, anything in one centralized place for easy access, right? That will help you eliminate filing cabinets. And then in addition to that, it has a very powerful and configurable workflow engine that is used to move documents around the office for approval, also for the coding of invoices, and for any kind of collaboration. Now, we've got 2 other pieces that are really important to the product overall. We have the ability to send documents outside of the organization, and we have some advanced business tools. I'm going to talk about that, specific in the arena of a configurable form. Think about things like an expense report or a requisition, and we'll get into that in more details as well. So now what I'd like to do is to dive into each of these different areas and give you an idea of why it's important and how it can solve business issues and what does it look like from an end user's perspective. So let's first talk about using the system purely as a way of storing documents in a digital library, right? Why is that important and what can you do? There are many, many different ways to capture documents. So when we talk together, we'll talk about how is that document originated today and who needs to search and retrieve it, and then that will help us determine how we're going to capture your documents. But ultimately, what you're moving towards is to have documents right at your fingertips, have that very powerful and flexible search criteria so you can get access to documents easily and simply save time overall. So let's show you a use case. What you're seeing here on the screen is the DocLink application, and I'm simply telling the system here that, hey, listen, system, I want to look for an invoice, and you see that highlighted in blue, And over on the right-hand side, I'm saying I want to look for those invoices, but I only want to see things with invoice number 36. Then, if I click search or double-click my enter key, then it's going to give me those return results. So you'll see this blue line right here showing me the invoice. But I can do something even greater. I can drill down into that document and look for everything that is related to that invoice. And simply by highlighting all of the documents, I can have them open on my screen. So that's very powerful in terms of getting easy access to documents right at your fingertips. And I just showed you looking for those documents in DocLink. But what would it mean if you could actually go right into the Sage windows and do something similar? So right now I'm on the AP invoice data entry screen. I'm looking for a particular invoice. Down here at the bottom, you see I'm looking for view documents, and when I hit that button, up pops the document that is related to it. Now, this functionality of view documents is available on many of the different screens in Sage. So let's say that I was on a vendor inquiry screen and I wanted to do the same thing, right? Click on view documents. There we go. Here are the documents that are related, and now I can, of course, view them, right? So hopefully you're seeing very easily the power that it can give you as an organization in having easy access to documents. So no more filing, no more retrieving, easier time to support auditors, right, and easier access to documents overall. So if you're in a position of trying to build the value proposition for your organization, we can start looking at the time that you and approving managers, et cetera, are spending finding documents, and that might be quite compelling in and of itself. Let's transition to different topics now. Now we're continuing to build, right? We talked about the power of workflow and being able to streamline the invoice approval process. Now, workflow itself is a very, very powerful tool, and it allows for you to simply route documents through an approval cycle, right? But then it gives you complete visibility and control of where a document is in the process. And here is where I want to challenge you a little bit to think very broadly. I'm showing you AP automation because I think most people can really get their hands around that. But what about your quote to cash process where you have a quote going out to a customer and then that customer PO coming into a particular workflow that may need to travel between departments, right? So this is another use case of DocLink and the paperless plus functionality. So again, think broadly. I'm going to show you the concept and think about how you may also want to apply that across your organization. All right, so same user interface. I'm simply working my way across the tabs. I'm actually pretending that I'm in accounts payable today. So here is the workflow I have. Here are the documents that I have to be working on today. I can open up the first one, and here I have on the left-hand side a nice area where I can do approvals or take notes. I'm seeing the document in the center. And now let's take a look over here on the right-hand side where you're seeing what we call the distribution stamp. This is a place where we can allow for you to capture header information, apply GL coding information, and this is all integrated with Sage. There is an opportunity for time savings here because you can use what's called a template, which is predefined information, in order to populate this data, thereby saving keystrokes and data entry. So if I was to have that form completed, right, I'm going to stamp it off, which simply means lock it down for editing. And now I can now send that to someone else through the workflow engine. So you see over here on the right-hand side are some examples of where do I want to send this invoice? Note that you can also do what's called rules-based automation. So if you didn't want to pick from the list and you would rather have the system look at the vendor and or the amount and or the GL account code and or other data, this invoice could be routed automatically through the approval process as well. So it's all up to you. I'm trying to kind of give you the big picture, what we would want to do is sit down with you and just map out what you're doing today with an eye towards your paper-based bottlenecks and pains, and then we can, of course, show you how DocLink can easily solve those dilemmas. All right, so let's say I sent this off to the CFO, right? They could also come in here. Now, look at what we have. We could have the approval notes here, but you can also do approval notes and notations. We call them sticky notes, right, here in the body. Notice you can also do some highlighting and some freehand drawing, and then I'm ready to basically send this back to the AP approved workflow. Now, there are some variations in terms of giving you flexibility in routing documents, and so I wanted to take just a tiny side adventure here on some of those options. So we're talking about sending a document through the approval cycle. I may simply want to send someone an email alert so they can sign into the system and do their approvals. However, I could also send that person an email. Notice what we have here. The document is attached, and I have some great buttons down here on the bottom whereby you can do the approvals right from within email. That may be ideal, especially if you have a traveling workforce. Now, what about mobile? So here you go. Here's our mobile application, and the mobile application allows for you to as well search for documents, conduct a workflow move, just like we've been talking about, and that can be very compelling to people that want to use their actual mobile device above and beyond a simple email approval that they could actually be getting through their mobile device as well. Okay, so we're talking about some variations. I'm coming back in as a CFO because I just simply wanted to show you what their perspective looks like. Right here I am in the CFO's workflow grid. I have one document to approve. I can open it up. I can do my approvals here, right? And then I'm simply sending it back to accounts payable here in the workflow area, and off it goes to AP. Now, in accounts payable, they can simply do this. Click on the import button, and that's going to take this transaction and update Sage as an unposted voucher. Okay, and I'm seeing here that the operation was completed successfully, which brings us back to viewing documents, right? Did that transaction make it through? Yes, absolutely, and here's that document. Okay. All right, so lots of possibilities when we talk about moving a document through the approval cycle using the power of workflow, and then being able to view that document in Sage or in DocLink. So that view documents functionality, people get very, very excited about it because they want to have access to documents in a very simple way. So I wanted to showcase for you where that view documents button exists on the various screens, right, within Sage. So you can see those all there. Now, to wrap up that particular use case, we also would want to capture the check, right? And so this is the paperless office check. We are capturing the image automatically, right? We are referencing the check back to the invoices that it covered. Why? Because we want to be able to search for that entire disbursement check by any of the document properties that have been captured. Vendor name, vendor number, check number, invoice number, or document number. All of that now becomes your search fields if you want to look for that document. So when I'm talking with customers that may already have Sage's Paperless Plus, right, they usually ask me why. Why should we buy Paperless Plus, right, in addition to Paperless Office? What you can do is you can capture into a centralized library all of the documents that are configured for Paperless Office. Plus, and the business benefit there is that you have a larger user community that then can have access to documents. Number two is you get that entire workflow process that I just described about moving an invoice through the approval cycle, through coding, importing the transaction, and capturing the check. So that's very, very powerful as well. Now I want to now move into a little bit of what we call our advanced business tools. And this is a way that you can extend the use of DocLink. For some people, they're going to add it after they're up and stable on DocLink. Some people say, no, the advanced business tools are critical to the overall project, so we want to implement them at the same time, and that's fine. DocLink is a scalable solution, and you get to determine what modules that you need in order to build out the appropriate solution. So let's take a look at it. What is it, right? I want to talk first about what's called our Smart Form Toolkit. And what it is it is a DocLink window that you can use for creating documents, indexing documents, retrieving documents, etc. Now, I want to share with you some examples because that, I think, will help you determine kind of what of these documents are you using internally and what may be very helpful for you. So let's take a look, right? Are you using an expense report on Excel, right? We see an expense report that you could use a smart form for. How about a purchase requisition? How about a miscellaneous check request, right? How are you doing those today? And would it be more helpful to have them in a centralized system? Credit cards. This is interesting. It says credit card expenses, but what I'm talking about is how are you doing your credit card statements? We have the ability to bring those into DocLink through a CSV file, put those transactions into a smart form, chop it up by card holder, and then be able to allow those card holders to reconcile their transactions. So if you're doing that manually today, then we have something that we can talk about. All right, now I want to give you an example here because I think seeing a picture is generally worth, 1,000 words is the expression. And that way you can help see what is the functionality and then envision through one use case how you might use it in other places. All right, so let's say we're going to do an expense report. Right, so if you're doing expense reports today manually, or you're looking at moving off of a system that you have maybe for cost reasons, then we can certainly talk about that. All right, there should be an easy way to submit expenses. So wouldn't it be amazing if you could allow your teammates, right, to capture the receipts via a mobile device? We use this internally here at Altec. And it is extremely helpful because now I don't have to worry about lugging around receipts in my wallet, and I no longer have lost receipts, which was a problem, right? So now I have the ability to open up the mobile application. In this case, I'm going to be taking a picture of a receipt. So I took a picture of my flight information, right, my receipt. I can add pages if I like. And then I simply want to give it meaning. And this is what we do in terms of indexing the document. So there are fields that are going to default. For instance, the company that I'm associated with, that defaults. My name, today's date defaults. And then you can just add information as necessary. And then when I'm done, I will have an opportunity to physically import this information right into my expense report. And it's going to repurpose the document and the fields that I entered right into this form so I can save on data entry. Now remember, we talked about that the Smart Form Toolkit is highly configurable. So here's one way of looking at an expense report. Here's another way, right, of looking at the entry form itself. And then what's going to happen is this information is then going to produce a document, which is the expense report, that will then go through the power of workflow to get my manager's approval and then integrate it into your Sage application for the purposes of payment. Now, there's a couple cool things about this particular form, so let's take a look at it. Right, we looked at an invoice going through the workflow, but I can also have an expense report going through the workflow. Now, in addition to the expense report, I had captured my receipt. Now, that can be one or many, right? And that's traveling along with the expense report because they're sharing the value of this expense report number 32, right? And so what will happen here is this will go through the approval cycle, and then, of course, depending on how it needs to be transacted, would likely be integrated with Sage for payment. So hopefully that gave you a really nice view of what the software can do and kind of how it addresses all of those goals of going paperless and eliminating the paper movement between locations, etc. So I thought we might kind of wrap things up with why paperless plus, right? And so again, just to reiterate these points, it is about capturing all of your paperless office PDFs in one centralized library for easier access. You can also extend this to any document, report, or form, whether it's internally generated or externally generated, can be stored in the system for search and retrieval. We want you to have those powerful and configurable search fields. We call those document properties, so things like expense report number or employee first name or last name or vendor name, vendor number, GL account code, all of those now become your powerful search fields. And we also, of course, wanted to help you streamline the invoice approval cycle. And we talked about using AP invoice approval as an example, but then showed you the ability of extending that to other kinds of business cases as well. And ultimately, it's really about fulfilling that paperless vision. Most people, they really do. I say, tell me what you want to do with DocLink, and their first words are, we want to go paperless. So I would sure love an opportunity to chat with you. What I would recommend is that if any of the points that we've talked about today resonate with you, give Sherry a call and she can set up a meeting. Let's just have it as an hour where we can talk about kind of what are your goals, or what are the issues that you're trying to solve? That's number one. Number two is I'd want to outline exactly what you're doing in those particular processes today. And at the end of the call, it would be very easy then to put together a preliminary quote. And then depending on what you need to do from there, we can gear up towards doing a live product demonstration and really put together a demo that would be kind of emulating your processes and really show you how DocLink can solve your particular business issues. So I want to thank you very much for spending the time today. And I also hope that we'll have an opportunity to work together. So again, give Sherry a call if this is something that would be important for your organization to explore. So Sherry, with that, I'd love to turn it back over to you for any closing comments.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Carrie Lynn, and the wonderful presentation on your product. I do hope everyone reaches out to us here at ISM to gather more information. With that, I will end the webinar. And again, thank you for your time, Carrie Lynn.
You're welcome, Sherry. Goodbye.
Thank you.